welcome back to another video. Today I'm talking about the Daimajin series, which you can see in this box set here. The Arrow box set. I'm not going to open it up or anything. It's not unboxing. But these are hard to hold off for a long time. They barely released these over the UK ever. It was like a Kaiju series that no one thought they would be interested over here. They released in America, but not over here, not over in Britain. Which is a real shame, because this is a really strong set. They were all made in 1966. They were shot simultaneously. And I think some of the actors moved from one set to the other, because certain faces became recognisable. But then again, this was shot at the same time as some of the Gamera films, the Godzilla films. I get the feeling that a lot of actors rotated through a variety of monster movies. And they all become a blur to me now, because it's like but there's some you think I'm pretty sure it's the same actor from these different movies, but I could also be imagining some Gamera movies at the same time, because it's that kind of thing. I was like, they were mass producing these films in the week of Godzilla, and they made these three Daimajin films at the same time with different directors, and they're a very similar story, and they were, they really work well. I mean, they're just a really interesting series. So the reason I'm doing this video is just to bring up how good they are. I mean, how wonderful this series is, how dark it is. I mean, it's a strange series in the sense it is essentially the same plot, but it's done slightly differently in each one. And they're basically, for 2/3 of the film, they're basically Japanese samurai dramas. So this is Daimajin, there's Return of Daimajin, and there's Wrath of Daimajin. The first two are really terrific films. The third one's a lot weaker. The third one feels longer, even though it's not that much longer, but it feels longer. And it doesn't quite deliver the same, power as the first two films. It just doesn't. But it's still an enjoyable film, but it doesn't have that same kind of kick to it. It's trying to be a kiddie film. It feels much more like a Gamera film, because it has kids in danger, but most of them survive. It's not as nasty as it needs to be to really make it as stressful as it needs to be, or as tense and dark as the other Gamera films. Not Gamera films, Daimajin films. There's so many Kaiju films. But Daimajin itself is this big god that is there's a statue of it in different places in Japan. And people pray to it. And when they go through troubling times, if things get too bad, Daimajin breaks from its the stone and comes and destroys the villains. That's the basic premise. But it's what can you do with that premise that really is what the film's about. And it's a series with a weird Christian element to it that I will get to. There is a kind of Christian feel to it. So I'll start with the first Daimajin film now, just so that I'm not just rambling the series. I'll just cover each film. So Daimajin itself is the story of this superstitious area in Japan. They're all praying to Daimajin, figuring there's the myth of he'll come out and get you if you're bad and things like that. And there's a lot of weird superstition that the soldiers take advantage of, so that when everyone's worried about the Daimajin figure, they create a coup which takes over the land, and they kill the lord, so they create a new lord, and their guy who's one of the advisors of the lord to start with. And they try and kill all his family, but his family escape, and escape up the mountain where the Daimajin statue is, where they basically hide for 10 years. So they go from being young, being about 10 years old, to being basically 20. And so they grow. There was someone protecting them, there was a soldier who got them out and is protecting them. There's a religious lady who's there as well, helping them. And no one will come to the mountain, so they're safe there. But over that time, 10 years of what was once a very basic civilized Japanese lordship area and farm and things has now become this militarized zone where the guy in charge has designs on expansion, and he's got a lot of soldiers, and a lot of people now work in mines to build stuff for him, and he's a total scumbag. He's one of those villains you want to see die horribly. And that's one of the things that these films do well. You want to see the villains die, you know, in the most horrible way possible by the time Daimajin shows up. They are scumbags. There's no nuance. They're scumbags. They're out for power. They're out to get as much power as they can get. They will kill anybody who's in their way. And there's some fearfulness amongst them. They do worry about, you know, they worry about the supernatural stuff, but they always actively don't. But they always try and be practical. So in this story, the kids grow up, and then they're hearing all the stories about all the damage done to the people, so they want to go and help. And what's brilliant about this film, what's absolutely wonderful about this film is they're useless. They fail horribly. I mean, there's a thing in Daimajin films is Daimajin shows up at the worst moment to save the people who are pretty much almost dead. I mean, it's a story of human failure before the god shows up. So that's why it's got a Christian feel to it. It's almost like we people are petty and useless, and we need to rely on God, and we have to pray to God, and eventually he shows up. As you can see, there's crucifixes in this film, and people are getting crucified, and during the first two films, and burnt alive at a crucifix and stuff. There's a really weird, interesting Christian iconography throughout it. But there's also just that weird inflection into Japanese culture of this Christian belief that just floats through these films and gives them an interesting, like, feel to it. It's the same way as the vampire films of the early 70s, kind of hammer-inspired vampire films, had the weird Western influence that was very un-Japanese, but mixed in with Japanese craftsmen, gave it an interesting feel, gave it something you didn't expect from that country, so it just gave it an interesting impression you not used to. But this film, the heroes are useless, especially the leading man, the prince, or the guy who should be the lord. He's useless, and not a very good actor. Just utterly useless in every way, which makes him great, because you know pretty much as soon as you see him, he's useless. And it would be a shame if he actually succeeded in anything, because the character's so annoying and so pompous and full of himself in that youthful way. They can solve all the problems. And you want to see him lose a little bit, and he does horribly. He fails completely. First of all, he sends out the guy who's looked after for 10 years to go and find out what's happening. That guy gets captured. Then he goes to try and rescue him. He gets captured. Then they send people up to the mountain, and his sister is trying to escape all of this, and she is captured, and they try to break down the Daimajin statue, and she ends up praying to it, and it brings it to life, and it goes out and just destroys this whole encampment and saves all these people. And it's just wonderful. It's just great. There's this sense of nothing working for the first hour of the film. These films about an hour 20 to the first two, and then the last one's a bit longer, and you have lost 10 minutes in that last one. And there's just this brutal sense that nothing's working, everything goes wrong, that people cannot be trusted to do anything. It's just great. There's this brutal feeling of failure that's so surprising in a film with a kaiju in it. Even though the kaiju is a big walking god, basically. And you have all this weird sense of sacrifice, this Christian imagery. It just creates this weird feel to the film that's wonderful. And when Daimajin comes up and opens his eyes, he looks ready to kill lots of people. He looks furious and rageful and unrelenting and Old Testament God type of thing. He does not care. If you've woken him up, he's going to kill you. And he will kill anybody in his way as he goes against these guys who have defiled his land and who's destroyed the people. He will kill them in the most brutal way possible. He will stand them, smash them up, everything else. It's just great. Despite the fact that the lead character is absolutely awful, it just makes it even better because he fails so badly. Now, Daimajin 1, the first one, is very good. An excellent film. I'd highly recommend it. The turn of Daimajin, even better. It's best in the series for me. It's wonderful. And as you see, the seas do part for Daimajin to come across. In this one, he's has statues on this island that's between these two basically different Japanese villages. They both get on, they're both doing well from the fishing, they're trading well, they're trying to intermarry with the prince and princess or with lords and the daughter of the other lord. Everything's going well, but across the mountains there's these others who are basically living in the mountains, and they've got very, very basic food, and they're not very happy that just because of where they live, they don't have it good, and these other guys who are beside the water have it great. And eventually they say, "Oh, sod this, we're going to invade them, because to hell with them. We're sick of this." So they've got an actual valid reason to be angry, but they take it way too far. And they go out to kill them, and they're going to try to kill everybody who could take off and create a rebellion against them. So this is like, in the first one you had the rebellion, and then you had 10 years of hell. This one all happens at once, and it's trying to stop anybody who can fight back. And they're going back and forward to the island. You've got the lord from one place is killed brutally when he's trying to talk to the invaders and try and create some logic. He gets killed. The Lord's son, the other one, is on the run, and he's been injured to start with. And there's a lot of to and fro between different places, back and forth on the island, different plots to save people, to help people. Early on, when they hear that the people are praying to Daimajin, the invaders are so petty they just go to the island and destroy the statue straight away, just to be dicks about it. That's it. I'll take away your hope. That's what's great about the film, is just like, these people are total scum. And then they realise the Lord and Lady are still alive and around somewhere, they have to try and catch them. And normally in that kind of thing of like near escapes and people captured and escaping, normally it'd be repetitive and horrible and annoying. But since this film's only about an hour 20, it cuts that down to the basic. You get the basic emotion of, we're going to get them, they've escaped, we're going to get them back. And it never gets to the point of being annoying, because it's just these people who have their own passions and their own. Half of them are trying to defend the people, the other half are trying to oppress the people. And there's ends in failure. Everyone gets caught. They're all getting ready to crucified before Daimajin comes up and just kicks their arses again and creates the water to his part so he can get from the island across to the mainland to start kicking ass, basically. It's just wonderful, because it is just this brutal thing. But because the characters in this one are a lot more likeable than the lead guy in the first one, that creates a lot more empathy for them, and you're more into the drama. Even though there was a lot to and fro of people getting caught and escaping, because the short run time, it really does feel like an interesting melodrama, an interesting situation where the villains aren't as competent as the ones in the first one, or really competent. But it makes it more interesting because it gives the kind of heroic characters a chance to fight back and show how their skills are as well, and it creates more interesting drama. But then it's also satisfying when they get defeated. They've given it their all and they've still been defeated, and then that's when Daimajin comes up, and it just feels a much more satisfying film, because the first one, because the lead character was really annoying, you weren't as dramatically interested. You weren't interested in the villagers who were undermined. You were interested in the family around them rather than him. This one, all the characters you like a lot more. They're all trying their best. They're all against people who are vicious. And when the Daimajin comes to kill those vicious people, it's so satisfying. Again, tons of Christ imagery all over the place. At one point, the female lead, because she annoyed the lead villain so much with her you know, helping all the poor villagers, he's going to burn her, put her across and burn her alive because he's so annoyed. And that's when Daimajin comes and just goes, ah, sod it. And again, the eyes come up and they look rageful, and they're going to really kill people. Again, it's pure Old Testament Wrath of God stuff. It's Old Testament kind of stories in the context of a Japanese situation. And it's just wonderful. This is one of my favourite Kaiju movies. Return of Daimajin. It's so good. It's so brutal and just wonderful. You know, it's just wonderful in every possible way. Okay, now we have the Wrath of Daimajin. Wrath of Daimajin is it's a less good one. It's a kid one. Basically, these loggers around the forest during the summer months have been kidnapped by the enemy of that area not long before the winter's going to come. So they've been kidnapped and have been forced to mine and get all the gunpowder things set up for these invaders who will pull attack after the winter months, really. One guy escapes, goes back to his village, tells them that there's this problem. They tell the lords, but the lords say they can't do anything because it's almost winter, we can't do anything. But these 4 kids defy everything and decide to steal some food and decide to cross over and try and help their fathers and their brothers escape. And that's the story, but them going over the Daimajin mountain, which is this mountain, this holy mountain in this area, trying to avoid these like samurai who are around, and try and get through the mountains to save their loved ones. Now, it sounds like a really good idea, but it's too long, because it is an hour and a half, and you really feel it. And even when the kids die, which is quite interesting, they actually go that way and have when the kids die. It's one of the more likeable of the kids too. There are lots of moments where it just drags with these kids in this mountain, where it could have lost 10-15 minutes and be a lot more leaner. You need more incident. Because when I was talking about the last one, it felt there was interesting incidents all the time, things happening that caused the life to get hellish. And the first one, the same thing, there was lots of problems that caused just general horrible situations for the people. This one, because they're kids, they get let off a lot lighter. They go to the camp at some point and you watch one of them try and escape and he dies. Just to get at a bit of threat. But there's a lot of wandering around in the mountains. And it's kind of a threat, but not really. Things happen, but it's not, you don't really feel the kids are in danger. When one of them dies, it's a surprise. But it hasn't really been led to the suggestion that someone could die because it's not been directed to be that threatening. And eventually the villagers also decide to go and cross the mountain to save these kids and their people too. But eventually all hell breaks loose. The snows come. Everyone's getting trapped and everyone's going to freeze to death when Daimajin comes and kills everybody. It's still enjoyable. The Daimajin coming and destroying the big encampment which was been built is good. But it's just too long. It just feels flabby and it just feels it hasn't been written as well as the other two. And it just feels like, we'll do the kid film. We've done the other two that are a bit dark. We'll do a kid one. That'll make it more different. I'll make it different from the conventions. But it means you've got less interesting characters, less capable actors. Because other kids have interchangeable personalities. You have one who's a bit younger. You have one who's a bit, apparently is more scared. But he doesn't act scared that much. Until the script reminds you to tell me he's scared a lot. And they say he's slow, but he doesn't seem that much slower than the other kids. And it's like, all the characteristics don't really come across with the actors. Like child actors. So it's an okay film, but it's not in the same league as the first two. It's enjoyable, but it's not. It's the one I'd put on least of the three. I'm going to watch a Daimajin film in the future. It'll be one and two. The third one is just, it's okay, but it's a part 3. it lives up or down to the part 3ism of its nature, where part 3s tend to be the time when films start to lose their identity and you start wondering what's going on here. It's got that feel to it. But the first two are great. The first two are so much better than you'd expect. So even if a weak part 3 doesn't matter so much. So I hope this encourages you to go and watch these films. They are really good. They are wonderful. But Part 3, lower your expectations for. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with another one. Right, bye for now.